Pueblo Colorado, which has been called the ground zero of THC commercialization. You have worked as an addiction psychiatrist in a 90-day residential program treating people with co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders for well over 20 years. Can you please, based on your clinical experience and your knowledge of science, focus upon THC and its effect on the human brain, share your concerns around THC becoming easily accessible through commercialization in our communities?
Yes, absolutely. I'm really happy to be here because I have been trying to get this message out. Several of us physicians in Pueblo, Colorado, go around the country trying to help people understand what has happened in our community. I've been an addiction psychiatrist since 1990, and I love what I do. I love treating people and getting them into recovery because I believe recovery is completely possible, but people have to stop using. And the problem with the high THC, well, basically what happened in Colorado was we legalized it, and then we allowed the industry with no regulations at all to really modify the plant to increase the potency of THC. And so, you know, when it first came out as medical in our state, I wasn't really worried about it. I thought it would be just like the old-time THC, which in the 60s and 70s, THC was less than 2%. And it slowly increased over the years. To the 90s, it was at the height of 5%. And now we have gotten plants up to 20% average. We have people selling marijuana who's brag they have plants up to 40% THC. And then we have the concentrates, which have been the most devastating part of this development, which are the edibles, the shatter, the wax, the dab. These are things that go up all the way to 95% and higher THC. It has been extremely damaging to multiple people. In my treatment program, we have seen more and more people using marijuana. I mean, it didn't used to be as prevalent. Now, the treatment program I run, 95% of them are using marijuana on a daily basis. This is more than tobacco. And tobacco used to be the one that everybody used, no matter what they were doing. And I actually have people not smoking tobacco, they're smoking marijuana, and they're smoking the high concentrations. And so I see the increased risk of suicide related to it, psychosis, depression, anxiety, and this is in adults. I also see this absolutely in adolescents. And the commercialization in our town has made it normalized. So everybody thinks there's nothing wrong with it, that it's safe, it's healthy, and so I should be able to use it because it's my medicine. And nobody talks about using marijuana to get high. Nobody does. Everybody talks about it, it's their medicine. And even though they don't have a medical card because they don't need one, they can go to the regular dispensary and get whatever they want. But we don't have any difference between a medical and a recreational. You go into either one, and they have the exact same products in all of them. So wax, shatter, dab, oils, vaping, and the kids are seeing that there's nothing wrong with it. We started doing education in schools. They finally let three of us physicians into the schools. So we talked to one middle school, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And so I gave an hour talk to 250 7th graders, and they were rapt. I mean, they were listening. And then they were able to write down questions afterwards that we collected. There were over 500 comments from these kids, and a big proportion of them were kids asking, well, if marijuana is so dangerous, why is it legal? I mean, how do you answer that question? And so their parents are smoking. They started asking questions about, how do I help my parents? How do I get them to stop? Because, you know, we're talking about the effects on cognition, This is a real big problem that I'm seeing with the high potency, is that it really affects abilities to learn and remember. Treatment is all about learning and remembering. And if you continue to shrink your hippocampus with a very powerful drug that does that, it's very difficult to learn and remember anything. So people don't do well in treatment. And this is, I mean, I'm seeing this because this program I run is a very amazing program for the state of Colorado that is funded by the state. So it's a 3-month inpatient program for people who have failed everything else. And so I see people who have been in multiple treatment programs, not been able to stay sober, and the majority of them are there for alcohol, methamphetamine, or heroin, but they're all smoking marijuana. The ones that are smoking the heaviest are the ones that do the least well in the program, because the other drugs are very forgiving. They leave their brain pretty quickly. Alcohol is the one that leaves the brain the fastest. And so people are better able to learn and remember new information. Marijuana is fat soluble, it sits in the brain for a very long time, and it takes a long time for it to come out. So I'll have people that, yes, their urine is now clean after they've been there a week, except for marijuana. And marijuana can still be in their urine up to 3 months later, depending on how heavy they've been smoking. And my biggest concern about it is how it's been normalized. And people don't think there's anything wrong with it. So if I'm trying to talk to people about their cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, or the fact that this is causing them psychosis or delusions, they don't believe me. And so they don't want to quit. They don't want to stop. And so it's a lot of work to try and convince people. I've started to be successful with some people, but it is really an incredible amount of work.